Good evening and salutations, my YNR fans. I know I'm still kind of new to this show, and I'm still getting used to knowing, like, learning the names of the characters, and just the feel of the show. But it's taking a little bit longer than I expected. The pacing, I shouldn't sit there and say the pacing, but just the way that some of these episodes are done. Like, okay, let's talk about the whole Billy and Davon. Devon? I think it's Davon. I'm gonna get his name right at some point. Um, in the beginning, all they really sat there and do is talk about Billy's kind of like insomnia and the fact that he's coming up with all these great ideas, but he's always doing it while it's like at the quote unquote witching hour. Um, there was one point where Davon was like, "Why don't you sit there and try to do a podcast?" They joke about it for a little bit, but then it comes up later on again, towards the end, when Lily's like, that might be a good idea, as far as, doing a podcast, you can even sit there and like hide your identity and, which I'm not exactly a fan of, but whatever. So I feel like they may go in that direction as far as his whole podcast or whatever, because his podcast is about pretty much helping people, which I don't know. I'm very always up and down about like stuff like that, you know. Because on one hand, I think it's a great idea. Sometimes, having an average Joe or just a person that you can relate to, when they ask some tough questions about life and advice and stuff like that, could be kind of good. It could be very relatable. But sometimes, on the other hand, it's just like I use Maurice Bernard for an example. He, he has bipolar disorder. So in a lot of ways, it's very relatable to have people, watch a show, whatever, and they can sit there and relate to him. But then sometimes you're just kind of like, well, yeah, you may have the same thing as somebody else, but people should sit there and take what you say as gospel. So I don't know. I've always been very up and down about like self help channels and podcasts and stuff like that. Anyway, they talk about business, which is a lot of the beginning of it. Like even when Lily and Amanda are talking, Lily is trying to convince Amanda to, work for her, work, like be her lawyer or whatever, her top dog or whatever. Um, Even higher than some of the people who already are there. So there is one point where it seemed like Amanda kind of snapped at Lily. Um, Something about like Amanda being upset, like, oh, well, you snitched, why are you trying to like cast doubt on, our project or whatever? And it was like, that's not what she was doing. Like, where did that come from? Like, she seemed like she just kind of like got really defensive out of nowhere. And I'm like, Lily, you sure you want to, have her on board? Cause like she snapped at you pretty quick. And what she said wasn't really like offensive or whatever. Anyway, they go through this whole thing throughout this episode of trying to get her on board, working with Lily and Billy. And she's very apprehensive because she doesn't want to leave her sister. And then towards the end, they say, listen, you can have your sister jump on board too. And, it's a package deal. So, yeah. So again, it's a lot of business talk in the beginning. And it's like, okay, all right. I mean, it's not super interesting. This is like, I know they're gonna go somewhere with this, and it should probably be interesting. But we're not there yet, and it's just like it sort of reminded me of the one of the other episodes when Victoria and Nikki was just talking business, and it was like, awesome, you're talking about work. I kind of escaped work today, so this way I could not really Okay, all right, cool. So this is the conversation we're having. That's great. I mean, it was short, but it was like I don't care. Um, everyone gets together. Davon's meeting get. I was just gonna say it gets cut short, but they really kind of already wrapped their meeting up, and he liked what Billy was there doing as far as ideas is concerned. So it really wasn't left much left to the meeting. Anyway, you get Chance, Abby, and Dave on there, and you get Nate and some other doctor that I can't remember her name, and I feel like it's not really that important. So bottom line is they tell them that Dominic has a rare blood disorder, and he's going to need a bone marrow transplant. And what the doctor was saying was that even if you have parents like bio parents, it's only going to be a 50% match. The only way you're going to get a 100% match is if you get a genetic twin. Not saying it's not going to work, but there's a chance of rejection, and so they all get tested. And then towards the end of the episode, Abby finds out that she's only 50% of a match, and Davon is 100% of a match. And I'm just wondering how's that possible? Because I am not a medical expert. I mean, I had to sit there and look online to find that out because I was just kind of wondering. I was like, how is that possible? How is Chance? I'm assuming Chance got tested, but Abby is only 50% match, and maybe Chance another 50% match. But Davon, who is 100% match, but he's not. I thought he was like. So this is what happens when you're late to the party, and I said this in a comment. I don't know what role Davon is as far as like, is he a donor? Is he just a um I don't know, foster dad? Like, what is his role? So those are questions that are going in my head because my point is if he's not related to him in any sort of way, how is he 100% match for Dominic? I'm no, I'm missing something. I'm probably missing a lot. So yeah, maybe as the story develops, I may actually know a little bit more. Also, Ray came by to sit there and check on Chance and see what's going on. And of course, you know, and just like Devon had to sit there and tell Amanda the bad news, or the potential bad news. Hmm, bad news. Um, so did Devon, no, so did Chance to Ray. I actually called him Brad at one point. Who is there? Was there a Brad on the show at one point? Because yeah, there was one point where I thought his name was Brad because I like read it on, like I saw it online. So after they get talking about baby Dominic, Chance apologizes to Ray about the whole stakeout thing. Ray's like, nah, it's cool, don't sweat it, whatever. You're going through a lot, this, that, and the third. And I'm gonna be honest, I would have probably took a different approach. Like I said, you're a cop, you're dealing with life and death situations, and I don't even know if this guy was even like past his psych eval before he actually came back. But yeah, I might have been a little petty crook or whatever today, but that guy could have had a gun and it could have went south very fast. So the fact that he was like super forgiving and it's like, oh no, it's fine, whatever. It's like, really, really? Like, I mean, I get you seem like a nice guy and everything like that, but there's nice and then there's being real. Anyway, Abby walks in. She stands there for a good second, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt." Why don't you just walk back upstairs then? If you didn't mean to interrupt, you could be like, "Oh, my bad," and then just kind of went back the other way. But no, anyway, she stayed down there. Ray left, and Chance pretty much told Abby half of the news. Um, I felt like he was leaving a lot of stuff out, but he said he kind of did that. I felt like he did that because, you know, the stuff that's going on with Dominic is obviously more important than his PTSD. So I think I did sit there and talk about. I did talk about the fact that Lily was not there trying to get Amanda on board, and she even also used Billy as an example because he was apprehensive. Um, but he kind of fell in line, and I guess that was like kind of a way to sit there and be like, hey, listen, if Billy, you know how stubborn he is, and he's used to kind of just like calling the shots or whatever. If he can kind of fall in line, then like working isn't so bad. Long story short, it seemed like they kind of convinced her more or less. So, and I gotta sit there and talk about this because I felt like for the first 13 minutes, like damn near nothing happened. I mean, I wouldn't sit there and say nothing happened, but like very minor things kind of happened. But I guess if I sit there and take a look at the clock, I feel like that's how it is for most shows, most soap operas. So I don't know. This show is still a mystery to me. It's a mystery of how it's number one. It's I mean, I've read the comments a little bit about what people like about the show and some of the characters and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I like I said, Victor's one of a kind. Victor's one of a kind. And I do like the stuff that's going on with the whole Ashland and Victor and Adam and even Sally. Um, I'm liking all that stuff. That stuff is great. Is when we get to the stuff where it's like Billy's talking about his, as Davon called it, his somewhat midlife crisis stuff. It's just like, and then when you start talking about work in the beginning, it's like, yes, that's great. So I don't know if this is a pacing issue or if this is just like I don't know. It's very hard to tell, but I don't know. I guess in some sort of ways, I kind of felt like that about Days of Our Lives a little bit when I first started watching it. Like it wasn't like it was disinteresting, but it was like it was still new. So I felt like I had to give it some time, and when I did, it's great. There's been times when episodes of Days have been better than episodes of GH, and that's still blows my mind every time. So yeah, I know that the show is going to get better. It has to get better because I can't see it actually getting any worse. I'm not saying that they're saying these episodes are bad, but they're just some stuff is great and some stuff is. Anyway, enough me rambling. I want to thank everyone for watching. I think that's pretty much about it. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.